Hi guys, Artiar here. So this is a R2 priority tier list for Dislyte patch 3.4.19. This tier list here will be covering which Esper their R2 effect is very massive and it will benefit in their PvE or maybe PvP. So this tier list here is a combination on PvE and PvP. It's my own perspective if I'm playing back as a Dislyte player, as a new player or maybe a beginner player or maybe a returner player or late game player. Which Esper should you get the R2 effect first, right? I'll separate into 5 parts. So the must get here is the Esper that gain a game-changing power spike at R2, specifically improving their role. So if you get that Esper at R2, it will change your whole gameplay, then it will be a must get. Then the second will be high priority. If the Esper is going to get a strong boost, but not that game breaking, it's worth considering. If you use them often, then it will be at high priority. So it depends on how high is my usage. So if I really use them very often at if they reach R2, then I'll put a high priority. But if they even reach until R2 effect, but I don't really use that often, but they're actually good, they'll get a small buff and useful upgrade at R2, then I'll put it at decent. Then for the minimum gain here, the Esper don't get too much of value at R2, but it's better than R0 or R6, then I will put it at mini gain. Then for skip here, in my opinion, you just skip his Reso because it's not really worth even at long-term situation. Okay, so the first Esper here is Chuyao. So Chuyao is one of the best Esper in game and doesn't require high Reso as well. But the R2 effect here gives you an extra bonus turn. This extra bonus turn, it really depends on your content. So in some content, you don't want Chuyao to have the extra bonus turn. In some content, you want the Chuyao to have the bonus turn. So it's really a tough choice, right? So because this bonus turn sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad. Maybe in Fossil 2 Fantasy it's considered bad, but in certain PvP content maybe it's considered good. So in my opinion, I would say Chuyao here, I'll put it at high priority, not until must get, because the bonus turn won't change too much of the gameplay in my opinion. Then for TA here, I'll definitely push her until R2, because TA R2 here, when you cast S1, is a whole team AP push and AP down the target. AP pushing your team while AP down the target is a very massive boost, and TA R2 here will make your bossing content a lot of game change. Then the next one is Yuhime. Yuhime here, every stack of the Hell Hand stack gives you an additional 10% chance of casting a Yuhime ability one more time. So it makes Yuhime able to cast like double S3 or maybe double S2, double S1. It's actually good. I'll put her at high priority, but not until must get, because when I use Yuhime, I don't really rely on that double cast. But if I have the double cast, it's actually pretty strong. So I'll put it at high priority. And then for Suje here, when an ally consumes the funeral rites, which is the Suje passive stack, then Suje will counter attack the attacker with her S3. It's actually very strong, and I would say it's must get because every time your ally is gonna die, then Suje will sacrifice her funeral rite to extend their death. Then she'll cast one S3 for free, which means additional 1 damage boost, which is very good, especially the content when you're using Suje and you're not very stable of surviving. Suje extra damage here will come in very handy. It's a free S3 without sacrificing your cooldown. Then for Feng Shun here, definitely R2 grants all the buff instantly, and most importantly is the AP push. AP push here is very strong, and not to mention is 25%. It's actually decently high, so definitely a must get for Feng Shun. Then the next one is Liam. When you start a combat, Liam attack will ignore 30% of the target defense. If Valeria gets the Vigilant, which means if you pair Liam and Valeria together, then their basic damage is increased. So I would say it's high priority as well, because it is extra damage from Liam. And if you're using Liam as a main DPS, the damage ignore 30% is actually very strong as well. Okay, then for Sakura R2, you gain 1 stack of Vigor Guard at the start of the combat. I would say it's somewhere decent to high priority, because like R0 to R2 Sakura, the changes isn't that massive. It's more, I would say Sakura Reso changes is more massive at R4 or R6. In terms of R2, it's just 1 stack of Vigor Guard. It's a good protection against control effect. That's all. But I don't think it's that game changing or that useful until that I have to rush for Sakura R2. But in long term, obviously Sakura R2 is going to be good, because is closer to R6, but basically that's it. In terms of R2 Reso effect on Sakura, I don't think it's that game changing. Then for Zhou Hong here, killing enemy while he have tough it out increase his AP by 25%, which makes his rotation a lot more faster. I would say it's mini gain because the AP push is kind of good, but I don't think it's that effective or much of a difference because you have to kill the target when you have tough it out. But when you want to get tough it out, you have to trigger the debuff first. So I would say it's mini gains for Zhou Hong. Then for Elif here, dealing damage inflict extra true damage, and I would say Elif R2 here is somewhere decent to high priority. Maybe I'll put it at decent here. It's because the true damage actually will come in handy if you're using Elif in Yinglong or maybe in PvP content, or maybe you're at early game, you get a Elif R2. The true damage is actually very strong. Because you cast a lot of S3, as long as you get buff, Elif cast S3 and the S3 deals additional true damage. True damage is actually very pain as well. I'll put decent. Yeah, I'll put decent for Elif. Then for Leora R2 here, you crit rate down cannot be dispelled upon a critical hit. I would say skip. It's because I don't really care about the crit rate down apply on the target or not. It don't really affect on me too much in my opinion. Like, you get crit rate down or you don't get crit rate down, I don't feel a lot of difference in my opinion. Then for Mateo, if enemy have spark, then Mateo crit rate will plus 100%, which I will put at high priority, must get priority. If you have Mateo at R2, then your Mateo doesn't have to build crit. If your Mateo doesn't have to build crit, then you save a lot of stats into speed or maybe attack or crit damage, and your Mateo can be your main carry in Fafnir. It saves a lot of stats. It somewhere must get to high priority, but in my opinion, I would say Mateo R2 is a must get because it really saves a lot of resources. Oh, Tablet is here. I'll go through the streamer the last. Okay, then the next one is Sally. So let me check at Sally. Sally R2 heals all allies and healing. Okay, basically extra healing. I would say mini gains, like the extra healing from Sally is good, but is it game changing? In my opinion, no. And then for Meta Liling, if you have Meta Liling already, cause you can't get Meta Liling now unless they rerun his banner. Meta Liling gains 3 stack of Tameless at the start of the combat. Is actually very good in PvP content, but in other than PvP content, I would say it's just mini gains. Like if I'm using him in PvE, which most likely I'm using him in Propertor, the Tameless at the start or not at the start doesn't change too much of the DPS or any condition for him. Then for Ollie, I would say it's mini gain as well, like one extra turn of invincibility and 1 extra turn of recovery. Doesn't change too much of his kit. Then the next one, Hilda. Hilda, when any enemy receive poison, Hilda inflict another poison on them. I would say it's mini gain as well, because if you're using Dark Starlord or using Hilda at early stage, if you're doing as story as tower content, 1 extra poison stack is good, but don't really change too much because the poison stack most likely is going to be enough already. You don't really need more poison stack other than min-maxing and Dark Starlord at the end game. Then for Mavis here, if you have at least 3 teammates who have Graceless at the start of Mavis' turn, you'll reduce her CD. It's pretty good overall, but I would say skip because most likely your Mavis will just die after casting 1 Graceless. Then your Mavis will not have enough tankiness to tank the Mavis, tank the damage on Mavis. So I'll just say skip. Oh wait, why Nusi is here? Okay, let me push it down. Lushang here, I would say definitely a must get because Lushang at the start of the combat instantly apply 3 stack of safeguard for you. Even in PvE or PvP, 3 stack of safeguard is actually very strong because it will help you block a lot of debuff. After the 3 stack of safeguard is gone, then maybe it's your Lushang turn again. Then you recast the Lushang S3 and your whole team get safeguard again. So it's really a safeguard protection for your whole team. Then Brewster at the start of the combat gains 3 stack of reload attack is actually very strong, especially you're doing at APAP or maybe speedrun content. The extra 3 bullet comes in very handy. Then for Woundlock wise, I would say it's a high priority or must get. I don't think it's until the must get content is extra ability cooldown when they have crit rate or crit damage is very good, but I don't think it's like a must get game breaking priority compared to the other Esper, but I would still say it's a high priority. Then for Seizai here, R2, the lifesteal effect from 50% increased to 100%, and the condition of getting the Untamed Fury is a lot more easier. I would say it's somewhere decent to high priority at R2, but maybe I'll put it at decent, because do you really need the lifesteal to 100%? I have no idea. Like, if your damage is high enough, to be honest, the lifesteal is kinda overload, to be honest. So I would say the lifesteal is not that important. The Untamed Fury condition is pretty good, but most likely I'm still able to do 3 counter attack, right? So I would say it's decent, not that high priority. Then for Pharah R2 here, after taking a hit, if Pharah have synergized and if attacker is flow tuned, then you get more AP push. So it's a good counter against speed comp, but most content I would say is somewhere skip to minigame, but because you have the flow condition, right? But in my opinion, I would say skip. I don't really think the Pharah R2 effect changes too much or too benefit for my own usage, right? Then for Nathaniel here, R2 effect I would say is somewhere mini gain to decent, but I would say it's decent because the target damage reduced by 50% for 2 turns is through his S1, and Nathaniel has self built-in counter attack as well, and every time Nathaniel get hit, he counter attack, and then they'll get a special debuff that cannot be dispelled, and enemy damage would reduce by 50% is actually very strong. Then for Gabriel here, I would say is skip. Like extra every speed here gives you additional attack, doesn't make too much of changes, because if I use Gabriel, it's most likely only for the immunity. Then Ophelia R2, after attacking, if the debuff if the enemy have 3 or more debuff, Butterfly Dream cooldown reduced, which is the S3 will get reduced. So Ophelia here, I would say somewhere mini games to skip, really depends. But in my opinion, I would say is skip. I don't really think the Ophelia R2 changes too much of thing. Okay, then for Tangshan R2 effect here as well, I would say skip, not that important at all. Then the next one is Armir. Armir R2 effect gives additional 5 stack of zest at the start of the round. I would say it's must get because he's the king of the wave. If you have R2 Armir, then you will see a very big difference between R2 Armir and R0 Armir. Your R2 Armir here is gonna help you clear the wave a lot more consistent, a lot more faster, and the ability cast from him doesn't even count a turn. Okay, then for Haley here, I would say it's a mini gain, because when Haley die, it will cast the Smelting Mastery, the equipment sharing effect, to the other ally who doesn't have the Smelting Mastery yet. So I would say it's pretty good, but it's a mini gain, because most likely your Haley won't die in most of the PvE content other than PvP, so I would say it's a mini gain. Then for Sienna here, attack up and speed up extend to 3 turn. I would say it's a skip, like 2 turn or 3 turn. The changes is not that obvious. Then for Javid R2 effect, the numbers of splash damage increased to 3. I would say it's a skip. I rarely use Javid, and even I think R0 Javid works well already. If you're using Javid in Memory Reef, R0 Javid is already enough to use. Like, you don't really need to go until R2 for it. Then for Clara, immunity extend to 2 turns. I would say it's a decent or maybe a high priority, but is it that high priority? I don't think so. Maybe it's a decent, because 1 turn immunity and 2 turn immunity is a very big difference, but I don't think it's that massive, like you have to chase for the Clara R2 effect. Then for Reso effect for Lien, I would say it's high priority, because you gain 1 extra turn when the dream bubble ends. So when the bubble pops, you instantly get 1 turn, and if you're on Ocean Wave, maybe you can recast the bubble and instantly put back up the bubble. It's actually a very good rotation as well. So yeah, high priority. Then Archibald here, R2 effect, reduce the target's max HP upon landing a critical hit. Overall it's actually pretty good. Oh, my champion is here. Overall it's pretty good, but for me it's a skip. I don't really care too much about that. Okay, then for Armored R2 effect, each supporting songs grant extra speed. Somewhere mini gains to skip, but I would say mini gain, because if you're using Armored as your best healer, gives you attack and gives you speed, is actually pretty strong. Okay, Fumitsuki, it dispel all buff from the target before casting the bamboo cutter, and when you cast the bamboo cutter, most likely you're going to use passive to trigger the pew pew pew, right, the ping pong ball. So I'll put that decent because you have the dispel actually come in very handy. You dispel the enemy immunity, you put up put up stun, and also put up the CD up. Is actually very strong. You'll feel a very big difference if you're using Fumitsuki R0 and compared to the R2. Then for Nora here, each counter attack increase AP for Nora teammate by 10%. I would say it's a mini gain. Like AP push come in very handy because every time you attack, then you counter attack, then you AP push. Then when you get hit, counter attack, then you AP push. Is very consistent AP push as well. Just sadly, she don't have AP down on her S1. Then Momo here, I would say is at must get. Momo R2, when you inflict by non-control debuff, you have chance to nullify it, and each rough stack increase your chance. Like obviously R4 is better for Momo, but R2 here also very good because as long as a non-control effect, Momo have a chance to ignore it, so your Momo would get debuff that consistent. Then for Jinchu here, I would say is somewhere at must get and high priority. Maybe I'll put it at high priority because Jinchu here can share his intimidate buff for your target, whoever buff him. It's a very good combo, but I don't think it's as high priority as the rest there, so I'll put it at high priority. Then the next one, Abigail. Abigail R2 effect resets ability cooldown of all allied Esper except Abigail herself. I would say mini gain. Like the CD reduction is actually very good, but it's only limited to Inferno Esper and very less usage for Abigail. Then for Tricky here, your S3 here also applies speed down for the target. I would say skip. The speed down is good, but not too much, so I'll say mini gain. Okay, then the next one, Bidao here, new effect added for the sardonic size, immune to petrification. If the petrification of any enemy ends, then they extend the status effect. Somewhere mini gains to skip, I'll say skip. Fatal Sister R2 effect, your S2 now can revive. Definitely very strong. Somewhere high priority to decent, but I'll put it at high priority because revive is pretty strong. Then for Yuran R2 effect. R2 effect is after casting Boundless Grace. After casting S2, then you can reset all your flow Esper ability by S3. Good. I don't think it's that OP, but it's good to have. Mini gains in my opinion. Then the next one is at Embla. Embla R2 effect here, definitely the must get tier. Instantly become a AoE damage dealer compared to the R0. Osana R2 effect, after applying the bleed damage, you dispel 2 debuff on each ally. Skip, because to be honest, the situation I use Ophelia doesn't even need the dispel on him. Like she don't even help me dispel stuff. Okay, then the next one is Yujing. Yujing R2 effect here, if Yujing have concentrated, reset the ability cooldown for the Esper who have warm welcome. So Yujing here, I'll put somewhere high priority or decent. I'll put it at high priority. Let me think. Yeah, I'll put it at high priority. Then because the CD reset is good and it's CD reset for warm welcome and you rotate very fast. Okay, then for Elaine R2 here is additional damage ignore multiplier. I would say decent. Then for Yunchuan here, definitely a must get because every time the target who have third eye seal, he will assist with the dog, which is very good. Then for Gaius here, sad, skip. Then for Liling here, also skip. Nothing too much to go through. Then for Yukini here, definitely a must get. The moment you have Yukini R2, then you can just use no set for your whole team, and Yukini will just keep doing the Blizzard. It's a very strong Esper. And then the meta Yunchuan here, if you have him R2, is a very strong damage reduction buff thing. I would say is somewhere at decent. Then for Slon here, definitely a must get for the R2 effect. You no longer freeze your own teammate. It's actually a very strong effect. Then or if a poison effect instantly trigger, I would say is at decent. Depends on your priority, right? But if a poison is actually very good for a lot of content, but not as high priority to get. Like if I get her naturally, it's even better. Then for Jinyu Yao R2 effect, increase AP push here, I would say skip. Not really that important. Then Valeria here, mini gains, because the damage reduction thing is actually very good, but most of the time I don't really need the effect. Then for Fushi here, after casting your S3, then Fushi gains a bonus turn. It's a mini gain in my opinion, like not too game breaking stuff. It helps, but it doesn't change too much. Okay, then for Yamato, one of the championship Esper, R2 effect here give you extra stats when you consume the Rashomon, so I would say it's high priority for R2 as well. Like if you use Yamato here, the R2 effect give you attack permanently up to 50%, or your defender get 50% defense. Is actually very strong. One of the best Reso for Yamato other than R6, so definitely high priority. Then for Lucas, free to play Esper, cause you can fill ski for free. If the target has 0 AP, inflict stun on that target, I would say mini gain. Then but in the end of the day, you'll get him R6 anyway. Then for Donner here, reach max stat gains bonus turn, mini gain as well. Then for Intisa here, deals additional true damage, I would say decent priority. Then for Zora here, skip. All this here Esper here, skip. Biotina R2 effect is dispel target change to 2, skip. Iliad skip. Fatima skip. Ethan, I would say somewhat decent at high priority. Depends on, do you chasing for speed game. If you are chasing for speed game, then high priority, or else I would say Ethan now is at decent. It's still pretty good for some cases. Louis skip. Genie is actually very good for her R2. If you're using Genie, then Genie R2 is strong, but Genie kind of fell off, so I would say somewhere at minigame. Then for Nama, skip. Okay, then for the Shimmer Esper here, Shimmer Esper Cecilia, one of the best healer and reviver, but in low reso she's not that good, right? So Cecilia, all ability cooldown for the revive target can be clear, but most of the new Esper now don't really care about CD reduction, so in my opinion, skip. Then for Everett, to be honest, you have to reach until R6, but Everett R2 effect here, I would say it's mini gain, because you have a free counter attack from your Esper. Okay, then for Moriyama, R2 effect here gives you attack up before you cast your skill, and it's very strong. So definitely a must get R2 effect. Nusi here, skip. Okay, then for Shenpin here, I would say it's must get as well, because Shenpin S2 no longer stun your target is actually a very strong, especially you're playing focus in PvE content. She no longer stun your target is actually very good. Then for Wu Yu here, R2 effect, your no longer miss rate and accuracy is 100%. No longer miss is a good thing. Accuracy 100% is kind of okay. I would say a high priority for R2 Wu Yu, but not that high. I would say slightly lower. R1 is even is more important. Then for Iki here, R2 activates one stack of Waxing Moon for Iki, so I would say it's somewhere must get to high priority, but I don't think it's that high priority for his R2. I would say his R1 is even important, not until R2. It's faster stack, but I don't think R2 Reso is needed. Then for Raven here, Raven R2 is reset the cooldown of the sun. Yeah, I think it's kind of like high priority. Do you need the reset? Nah, I think decent. Like the R2 Raven R2 effect CD resetting, I think it's decent, because in speedrun content you don't really need Raven to take her turn. You want Raven to take her turn outside the battle. Okay, then for Mingxuo, eventually Mingxuo you'll get it at R2, but I would say Mingxuo R2 here is a mini gain. Final damage increase, not too much, but is something good. Then for Tolan R2 effect, extend the enemy ability cooldown by 1 turn when Tolan die. It will come in very handy when you play in PvP. Somewhere decent, but I don't think it's that high priority to get. Then for Anna, if you're using Anna here, Anna R2 effect is actually very strong, because every time some Esper damage your team, then Anna will double poke the target if you're still using Anna. but it's kind of hard to see Anna at higher tier, but maybe at mid game tier or lower tier you still see Anna a lot, and Anna R2 is actually very annoying. Then for Zihe R2 effect here, Stone Steady is active, Zihe take 30% less damage during active turn is actually very strong as well. Somewhere high priority and must get, but I will say high priority because to be honest, Zihe R0 is all you need. Then for Petros R2 effect here, any enemy HP below that 50%, Petros goes into his demon mode thing. Better condition, but I don't think it's that important. Petros is a 1 copy, then you're able to play. Then for Unas here, R2 effect gives attack up for everyone. Mini gain don't really change too much. Then for Jiangzhuli R2 effect, Q in demon mode cannot be revived, and then he gains 30% of the target attack. It's pretty strong. I would say it's somewhere decent. Then for Taver, if you're using Taver for your Yinglong auto stuff, the extra like you don't really need to have crit rate stats on Taver anymore. I would say somewhere high priority to decent, but I would say is at high priority. It's actually pretty strong if you're still using Taver in your gameplay. But overall, so this is my R2 priority tier list. The tier list here is focused on how high priority should you get them to R2. Like I will get this Esper to R2 first, then I'll only focus on this tier, then only focus on this tier, this tier, for example. But it really depends on situation, right? Maybe your concept is I get Sakura R2 first, so I'm 1 step closer to R6, then this tier list might not be viable for you, because to be honest, Sakura R2 is 1 step closer to R6, which is true. Elif R2 is 1 step closer to R6, true. Suicide as well, Nathaniel as well. Depends on if you're aiming the Esper to R6 already, then getting every single Reso obviously is going to be good. But if you're just considering this Esper R2 value, this will be the tier list. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment down what you guys think about it, and see you guys in the next one. Bye bye. Special thanks for the direct support on the YouTube membership. So for the benefactor of Artiar, which is Yakishiba Tales Epic Bullet Boy, thank you so much for your support. And for the supporter or patron of Artiar, which is Louis Schneider, Agni, Wang Tamer, Ziggy, Kamaruki, Sunwalks, Rimu, Chani, Antonio Winterspoon, Ilm Cragren, Riku Fred X Iris, Calamity, Rocco Stenzions, thank you so much for your support. Special thanks for the direct support on the live stream super chat for the latest 10. Thank you so much for Code Wilderness, Calamity, Agni, Love Fatima, Fatima Little Underwear, Bloods, Riku Fred, Chani. Thank you so much for your support.